there's probably more to it than what we're seeing. There still wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go back to our phone lines and talk to Alexander Dragonfang of Zalera. What's going on, Alexander?
Hello, guys. First of all, I want to excuse myself for my English. It's maybe not very good, but
Better than
neither is ours.
Better than Cal. Oh.
Yeah, we're understanding it. It's all right.
So I'm one of those guys that judge Eureka basically after reading the patch notes. Then I moved on to play it. I played for like 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And then made a very lengthy Reddit thread that got really, really nicely about. I think it's the first time I get like nice karma in Reddit.
Good karma farming. Okay.
Fair enough. All right.
Yeah, it was a good karma farming. But I'm kind of like a game designer wannabe. So every time this game implements something, I'm like, okay, if I were the game designer, what would I change to make it better to my taste? Or what do I like from this content? And I honestly like the gameplay in general inside the Eureka. Like, it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
But I cannot help to feel like the rewards and the incentives are always, how to say it? Do you guys remember when Yoshida once said that we were not like kids or adolescents anymore, and we didn't have the time to invest into the games like we used to? So
yes.
What happened to that? Because honestly, you have to put a lot of grind into acquiring things. You have to look for really far away in time content, and in the end, I mean, Eureka is cool. It has some good mechanics. The map is beautiful, but in the end, you're mostly like killing trash mobs for the first half, and then hunting fates, a mix between fates and hunts for the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And after 4 years, at least for me, after 4 years, that's not what I was expecting.
You know, I'm actually glad you called in, because you actually hit on a lot of the opinions that I share. You know, going into Eureka, yes, we can obviously look and see that fates are nothing new. Even grinding mobs in parties, if you played FF11 or if you played MMOs in general, isn't really anything new to the genre. But a lot of this is very, very fresh for Final Fantasy XIV. But you're right. I think the one part that I'm still very critical of is when it comes down to the rewards, or the way that you earn the rewards, the way that you choose the rewards, is still very, very uninteresting. It's the same currency for all of them, which isn't even on its own currency tab. I called that, by the way, guys. So
sure did.
Point for me. And the fact that it's literally just, you know exactly what you're getting. None of it's even new. It's not until the third turn or the third stage that you get to dye it. I feel like in terms of rewards, or at least the way that it was structured, it could have been a lot more interesting and could have added a lot more, I think, flavor to the event overall than it did.
I agree with that, because I do think that the rewards were not exactly what I was expecting or what I really wanted out of it. Now, the thing about it is, though, is that Square Enix had a set of challenges set in front of them with where their content that they were presenting over and over again had been failing. It was not engaging. It was very repetitive. It was throw your party into a hallway, forward progression, and repeat. And so this, I think, tried to answer a couple of key criticisms about experiential gameplay that people were looking for out of 14 and not getting. And I think that this did address some very core things. This is a much more dynamic system in terms of where you're going to adventure, where you're going to be fighting. There's almost virtually no overworld fighting that is done unless you're doing fates or you're doing hunts. And I do understand and accept the criticism that all of the NMs in here are pretty much the same as a hunt or a Fate, and they operate very similarly. But the goal here, the end goal here, is for Square Enix to make a piece of content that can be self-sustaining and also feel large, right? So if you have a player, a portion of your player base that is tuned out of Eureka because they're getting better gear either out of tome grinding or out of savage raiding, then you know what, that's probably fine, because this is aimed at a group of players that really aren't getting much out of that, right? They're doing it, or actually maybe they're not. Maybe their sub is lapsed. But this gives a different method for acquiring gear at roughly the same level as a little bit behind. There's some give and take there. You get the extra materia slot, et cetera, that I do think that the trade-off is fair. But what has been the pattern of the way that Square Enix has done all of the upgradable weapons? At some point they bring it pretty close to BIS when you're talking at the end of the expansion. So I do think that there's probably an argument to be laid here that eventually Square Enix will bump up the power of these items as we continue to increase their power as the expansion continues.
Right, and people are saying, the first stage of Relic and shit is always bad, but to be fair, the Relic is usually released a little earlier than now. So I feel like if they wanted to wait so late, they should have made the gear a little bit better.
No, I think that's fair, yeah.
But the thing with the Relic and how it's linked to Eureka, I mean, before you get Relic, you basically have no incentive in gear to do the things there unless you are really phased out from the rest of the content. But in the end, for example, for the amount of time you have to invest to get your gear, by the time you get it, you will be just a few weeks away from a new gear tier.
Tell that to our last caller.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like this stage of Relic, or this Relic and Stormblood, is way easier than it was in 2.0 or 3.0.
I agree.
Because
potentially easy.
I mean, if you think about,
I think the grind is a much more natural progression through Eureka than it was as an overworld grind going to Fates or trying to hunt Atmas,
or just murdering Garuda 700 times, or Oppressor 600 times.
The other thing that's also really cool about this, which I never really understood, especially based on the way that Square Enix does things, why they have the weekly tome cap. Being able to potentially go in at my own pace and get, if I wanted to, like our last caller, everything that I needed in a single week. Awesome. Because when you have a cap each week, it ends up feeling like a chore. And I had to train myself specifically not to care about that. So that way, when it came to Monday, if I didn't have all of my tomes, I didn't feel like, oh my God, I have to log on right now and play, even though I don't feel like it.
Yeah. I think that there's enough players like us that have kind of let go of the idea that, oh, I'm not capped out this week, oh my God. That, now Square Enix has to be able to provide different methods of gameplay. And this does succeed on several of those fronts. Alexander, appreciate the call. Thanks for calling in, man.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to give us a call, Limit Break Radio on Skype, 810-515-8715, limitbreakradio.com/Discord. We want